hip-hop over the crowd. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. A special episode, The Rob and Stu Show. It's going to be a big weekend. We got Kentucky Derby preps all across this great nation we call America. And, you know, we had to get on some all-stars coming up. Nikki the Boss Tammaro at NTAM1215. I got the Steve Beck thing in my head. He's coming up. He's talking Wood Memorial, St. Anita Derby. But we kick off with a young man from the great state of Kentucky who's got a big race coming up this weekend at a place he used to call home, still calls home, probably close to his home. He is the great Mike Maloney. Buddy, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you guys. Opening weekend at Keeneland is kind of, it's not quite Derby weekend, but it's a close second.
I even put a bigger chaw in for this one. That's how excited I am.
You wore a collared shirt. I didn't even know
I wore a collared shirt. I wanted to be on brand with Mike here with the Under Armour collared shirt. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we need a deal. We need a deal bad.
No, hey, me and Roberto got to come see you in October. There's some vagabonds from Knoxville coming up to get spanked at Kroger Field. We gotta come see you.
That sounds like a plan, man. Let's do it.
Now, just be mindful. Rob's got to come. So,
well, you have to have somebody from New Jersey escort Stu up for security reasons. I mean, black suit, black, soprano
plus,
style.
If you're coming to Lexington, you need someone with deep thoroughbred knowledge in the group.
That's right. That's right.
Is your dad coming, Rob?
Yeah, he's going to come.
Okay, well, then we got that covered. Bombs away.
He was trying to get to Keeneland in April this year, but he's like, we'll wait till October.
And Mike, Rob's dad, Bombs away. He's never met a 20-1 shot he didn't like. Let me tell you, he's our kind of guy.
Well, he sounds like a man after my own heart.
Mike, you let it off. Bluegrass. Let's get into it. The greatest thing, me and Rob were talking before the show. The greatest thing about Keeneland is you're going to get some fields. I mean, it's a great day of racing at Keeneland. First Saturday of racing here at the new meet. And I'll tell you what, phenomenal races capped off by a great bluegrass. I'll let you lead off in the bluegrass. I mean, a lot of ways to go here. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, my initial thoughts is, and I'll get into this maybe a little more later if we have time, is when Keeneland starts this opening, not just the opening weekend, but the opening week. I'm always looking for prices because there are some serious upsets as a general rule in the first 5 or 6 days of racing. And even more, it seemed like it's even more pronounced than the spring meet. So that's my mindset. Unfortunately, when I look at this race, I have a hard time getting past, the horses that are going to get played. So I know that's, that's not exciting and sexy for you, Stu, but you got to call them like you see them. There's an old saying around the racetrack of short price is better than a long face. You ever heard that one?
I've heard that you've got a face for radio. I've heard seek treatment. I haven't heard that one, but yes, I'll add it to the repertoire.
You have my permission to use it.
Thank you, sir.
So my quick take on the bluegrass is I see Tappet Trice and Verifying as being the two most logical winners. There are just several horses in here that I would be even trying, to be open to an upset. There are a lot of horses in here that I just have a hard time getting to. So for me, Tappet Trice, Verifying, Blazing Sevens, those are the top three. And Blazing Sevens, let me start with him. he there's a horse that I looked over my trip notes and I had nothing except a slight bump at the start on him last time. He ran so poorly in the Fountain of Youth. I couldn't understand it, even though I take all this time taking his trip notes and putting them in my database. I have to go back and watch the replay again because I can't believe that he could have run that poorly without an excuse. But when I watch the replay again, I still don't see the excuse. And
I don't think you're wrong. Not to cut you off, I don't think you're wrong either because look, they put blinkers on. You know, that's
exactly.
telling you right there he wants to change something up, and that's usually not like Chad in a big race to just throw blinkers on.
Yeah, it exactly. That was my next comment. Was it's bothersome that you come off that race and you try the blinkers because that tells me they don't know the excuse either. So it doesn't mean the horse can't rebound, and if he does rebound, he's good enough to win in here. But I can't use him. I can't play him because he's not going to be that big a price anyway. You know, I read and Chad, and the horse has good numbers. You know, he's got to catch money, but I just can't take him at a 4 or 5 to 1, whatever he's going to be in this field coming off that race. So the only other real, contender that I can see is Raise Cane, and he got an unbelievable setup last time. Got a supersonic pace. He had a little trouble weaving his way through, but it was still a nice setup. He's a horse that has a little ability, but he's not going to be that big a price either. So I have a hard time taking him. So that it just kind of leaves me with the Tapit Trice and Verifying. Verifying, his best race was when he was on Lasix, which he won't be able to run in the Bluegrass on Lasix. So there's a small issue there too. Although his last race in the Rebel, I thought he was kind of compromised by the trip. He got out of position there. He got in a little vice, I thought, late on the turn and into the stretch. So I can kind of forgive that race. I see a little excuse for him there. So I have confidence that he's probably going to be part of the try. The horse I think I'm gonna. It's hard for me to split Verifying and Tapit Trice, but I'm going to give a slight edge to Tapit Trice just because I by my numbers, he kind of paired up his last 2 figures, and he might be ready for another move forward. So, my quick thought on the race. What do you guys see?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a competitive, like we were saying before, it's a competitive field. And like you said, there's probably only a couple runners that you can really take for real in here that really have a chance to win this race. The pace setup is kind of interesting to me. A horse like Major Blue, it was odd to me that Lucas cut him back last time at Oaklawn. Usually you'd think he'd want to keep extending him out, but they got that sprint into him almost like another work. 12 days later off of that race. Kind of an odd move, but I mean, can you really question D. Wayne? I mean, but he's kind of interesting to me if he gets to the lead. The McPeak course on the outside also, he's got some speed. Like you made a great point with Raising Cane there. I mean, listen, I thought he moved up on a wet track. That's what I thought that was at Aqueduct. I thought he just hit it right. I just can't bet him coming back to that race. Me and Stu's horse, we bet him in the Tampa Bay Derby, was classic car wash. I kind of like the way this horse moves. He's a grinder. Sometimes those, bigger horses, the grinders like that, I think they get better, obviously, as they go a longer stretch of distance. I think a 1.8 fits him perfect. I like that race last time. Case is kind of an old school trainer. I don't think he always gets him geared up until the big races. They're obviously going to need the points here. And I kind of like the way this horse has been coming along watching him. I like the rider change to Javier. Javier has really bounced back, I think, within the last year. About a year and a half ago when I was at Saratoga 2 years ago almost,
Humble
he was
brag.
really struggling. Couldn't get mounts. He was just not doing well. Boy, he's really turned it around. I think he's riding good. I think that's a factor. But yeah, Classic Car Wash is a horse I kind of like.
That makes sense. I can't argue with that at all. He in horses, historically, horses that go from the dirt at Tampa to the dirt at Keeneland tend to overperform. So that's another thing in his favor.
That's a good stat. I didn't even know that. Yeah, that's something to look out for. Early,
I don't have hard numbers for it. Just kind of the bumps and the bruises of being there every day.
Hey, listen, that's the knowledge.
Way,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I always try to give the Tampa dirt horses a little extra credit.
Well, even last year you saw horses. I think it was the Saratoga. Was it Saratoga when horses went back to Aqueduct when they were shipping in from Turfway to different places last year? The synthetic horses were hitting the dirt in New York and winning early on last year in the spring. I mean, certain tracks, certain horses pick up.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems when they go to different places.
When they had the synthetic at Keeneland, I always struggled because it eliminated a lot of my good angles that I'd built up over the years on the dirt. But one of the great angles, it's worth nothing now, I guess, but one of the great angles was Presque Isle horses to Keeneland. They ran out of their mind. I mean, they had, I don't know how many $40 and $50 horses, Presque Isle last race.
I kind of disagree. I'm buying into Blazing Sevens. And I think when you watch that head on, it's a stumbled start more than hit. The horse he does hit multiple horses. It's more of a stumbled start, and that's what should be called out in the chart. And then he kind of just veers to his left and hits a horse, and then we're playing pinball for the first 100 yards.
But then what happened for the next mile?
Well, you know how that goes, Mike. You start playing pinball, you get your rocks off. You ain't got nothing left.
Do you think Rosario stuck with Raising Cane there, or do you think Irad? Seems like they went for Irad, right? I don't think it was a thing of Rosario telling them no.
That would be my guess.
And that's the other thing. I think Irad's going to be very tactical, and this goes back to something in the greatest show we've ever done that was never published last week. Thanks, Rob.
Thank God.
Yeah. Thank God for you. Wow. Where your horses are still running.
They're still running.
Yeah. Mike, I want to get your take on this. So when I look at races sometimes like this, and I see some bona fide closers, horses that absolutely will close. I've got some horses that I don't trust as speed. I start looking for the horses that can stalk, that can make a middle move. And I think Blazing Sevens, if you trust the BC Juvenile, if you trust the Champagne last year, if at 4-1, maybe it's not worth it. But to me, 5-1 or higher, I'd be willing to take a shot that improves on that form, going from 2 to 3, and maybe this race sets up for him from a pace perspective. Mike, what do you think about that idea?
I think he definitely can win. I may have a mental block against this kind of horse, guys, because one of the things that just chills me, and part of the reason is because most of my money is bet vertically rather than horizontally. So I'm in a lot of these exactas and tries and supers. And the thing that I try to avoid is betting a horse that could be off form, because it wipes out everything. If you're using him in a pick 3 or a pick 5, and you're using another horse or 2 other horses, you're not putting yourself at that much risk. So it may just be a personal thing with me. But I totally see what you're saying about the horse. And do I buy into the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Champagne? I absolutely do. I think he's proven that he's talented enough to win the Bluegrass. No question to me. And the counter argument to the things I said negative about Blazing Sevens would be Chad's got a lot of horses. If if he didn't like the way Blazing Sevens was training or doing, why wouldn't he just take him back to New York and freshen him up for Saratoga, or run him at Belmont later? So the fact that that he puts Irad on him and enters him in this race, you have to respect that. So I'm not, I'm not.
I would agree with you though, Mike, that Tapit Trice is the horse to beat. I mean, how many slow paces does this one have to close into before? I mean, this horse is legit good, like legitimately pretty talented.
What I like about him is he's consistent. He's always shown up so far in his career. And not all Tapits do that. Tapits can run a little hot and they can they can throw in a bad race once in a while, but this horse, Tapit Trice, he's been a model of consistency. He comes with that run, and if the pace is not super hot, which I think you're going to just get an average pace in here. I agree with Rob. I think Major Blue is probably going to make the lead, and Verifying should be laying second or third in a really good spot. That's one thing that bothers me. If I have to choose between Tapit Trice and Verifying, I would always on Keeneland's dirt track, I would want to lean toward the horse that would get first run, which I think is going to be Verifying. So that makes it a really tough call for me between those two. My kind of angle on the race will probably be to say that Tapit Trice and Verifying are both in the trifecta, and then just trying to fill out the other slots.
Is this your favorite meet out of all the meets, the springtime Keeneland meet?
I like the fall a little better just because it's easier to tell, to be sure that a horse is in form in the fall. What you find in the spring is there are a lot of horses that are going to make their first start of the year, or their first start in 3 or 4 months, and they're training well and they should run well. But what you'll find is that some decent percentage of them won't show up. They'll just need a race when the trainer thinks they're ready. So that adds another factor into the spring meet that I don't have to deal with so much in the fall.
Yeah, getting ready for the Breeders' Cup. Usually, they're usually primed and ready
sometimes
to go.
Sometimes that can work in your favor if you pick the right favorite to go negative on that's coming off the layoff, and that once we've run a few days, it'll be easier to make that call because you'll see some trainers that are on fire, and you'll see some trainers that their horses just don't look like they're on the mark. I think Chad, he ended up having an okay meet, but I don't remember if it was last spring, but it was within the last few meets. He had a meet where he started off his first 6 or 8 starters all ran below expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So, but then it turned around. But so if you see a situation like that, then certainly you might want to take a shot against a horse that's coming off a layoff.
Yeah, even some of these bigger stables, it's interesting sometimes, because I always feel like certain owners too, they want their horses ready for that. Keeneland's a big thing, racing there, just the the prestige of just being there and everybody dressed up, and the crowds tailgating, and it really is an incredible scene. I mean, if you're a horse racing fan, the first time I went there, I was in shock. I went in 2006. I was like, I can't believe there's people that tailgate horse. Like, I've been in horse racing my whole life. I never seen people tailgate. Even Saratoga, they don't tailgate like that.
Excuse me, we've seen it at Freehold.
Okay. Yeah, I took Stu to Freehold.
Wow, you want to talk about salt of the earth, Mike? I mean, you want to talk about the Ritz-Carlton? Let's start talking Freehold Raceway now.
He took down the entire pick 4 pool. What'd you get back, Stu?
$35. It took down the entire pick 4. I mean, I felt look, I hate to say it, I was betting with an edge, Mike. I mean, that's when you really
He's always the king of the cheap shot. Here we go. You sure those guys at Freehold weren't just passed out on the tailgate?
Yeah, no, that's actually no, that is exactly what the tailgate is. You're 100% correct, Mike. Hey, Mike, you were telling us a really cool story about the horse in the 2-hole, William Walden, the trainer. For folks that didn't see the story on TVG, Mike, I mean, by all means, a really cool story.
Well, I think it's a cool story. So Will Walden is the trainer of the horse in the 2-pole in the bluegrass, Clear the Air. And Will is in his early 30s, and he had a serious drug addiction problem, through several years, and reached rock bottom or close to rock bottom, and was finally got to the point where he participated in a recovery program in downtown Lexington, a place called Shepherd's House. And while he was there, a fellow that I know that's a friend of mine, Frank Taylor, who's one of the brothers in TaylorMade Farms and Sales, saw Will and some other the participants in the program there, mostly young men, and Frank started a deal where those guys could come out of that drug rehab program and come to his farm and work with horses and learn the basics of horsemanship. Well, a few of them did, and Will, of course, knew a lot about horses. His dad is Elliot Walden, the ex-trainer and the guy that runs Windstar Farm now, and a well-known man in horse racing, been very successful. So Will had grown up on Elliot's shed row and knew a lot about taking care of horses and training. So Will decided he wanted to be a trainer, and Frank Taylor put up the money to buy some yearlings for Will to train, and for these other guys that were in this program became Will's grooms and hot walkers, a lot of them. So it's a really cool story. TVG did an excellent feature on it last spring, and that's really where I learned about it. You can access that little feature. It's maybe 5 minutes long. If you just search Will Walden trainer, it'll come up, and it's entitled Day Brightener. So if you click on that, you'll see the segment. It's excellent. Will says in there, we were so low, we were addicts out on the street, or in a drug house, and nobody in the world would trust us with $5. And Frank Taylor trusted us with hundreds of thousands of dollars of horses. So it's a very cool story. I lost a son to drug addiction, to fentanyl, years ago. So it touches a place with me personally. But it's a really cool story, and it's something that happens in racing that a lot of people don't understand, that haven't been in racing for a long time. There are a lot of great people in racing, and it's a community, and people really do reach out and help each other. And that's one of the greatest things about racing.
It's nice to finally have a good story around
Absolutely.
horse racing. It's not all doom and gloom. It'd be nice if more of those could get out there, but
it's a hard business too. It's very demanding. Anybody that follows the sport knows it's 24/7, 365. There's no off days. There's no sleeping in. It's your whole, when you're in a business like that's your whole life. The horses are just, you're there every morning. Thoroughbreds, they start 4:30, some of them 5 a.m. And they're taking care of the horses all day. They're back in the afternoon racing. They're back feeding at night.
Yeah.
It's your entire life. It's not easy.
Yeah, I spent a year on the backside when I was a young man, and it's no days off, and we had it easy. We didn't get there until 5, but there were guys that were already there by the time I got there. But pretty soon you have to set an alarm for about the first month, and after that, you don't even need the alarm. Your body gets you there.
You're getting up. Yeah, I was fortunate enough to hot walk at Monmouth one summer during high school. I mean, my friends thought I was nuts. I mean, they'd be partying until 2 a.m. I'd be like, well, I got to get up at 4. I have to leave my house 4:15 to make $200 a week. But I just wanted to learn. I wanted to get in there and see what they do. And even though you'll see me complaining about losing bets on Twitter or nothing, I always have an appreciation for the sport because I know what goes in behind the scenes. It's not,
We'll see if you had the same experience I did. I learned a great deal about betting and handicapping from my time on the backside. It taught me how it really works, and that a lot of times you can be scratching your head about why a horse is entered here, or why a guy would run a horse for a certain tag. And when you get on the backside, you see that there are just all kinds of personal life situations that go on. I give you for instance, there was a guy that was on our shed row, and he was a mailman. He was a full-time postman. Well, the only days he could run a horse were the 2 days he had off each week. So if you were trying to figure out, like, why is this guy in this $8,000 6-month race when he could have been in this other race, it was just because it was his day off.
That's awesome. But and the characters that you meet, like, it's just like you meet people around the business, whether you're a gambler, whether you're on the backside, whether you're an owner, whether you're just the stories, right? I mean, somebody could really write a book or a movie, and the characters, no better story than what you just told. I mean, who would ever think that a mailman? You know what I mean? It's just incredible.
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't have met PTF if it wasn't. Well, I did see him at the Clue convention. He came in third as Professor Plum in the cosplay. Shout out PTF. Love PTF. Mike, can't say enough. Always love having you. Love to have you chat a little Derby. Give your thoughts on the Derby in about a month's time.
All right, I'm always available to you guys.
You're just a mensch, and we're gonna come crash your house.
And I don't say that to many people. Only guys.
I know you do. I know you don't. I mean,
only guys with SEC football helmets in the background. Those are the only guys I deal with.
Hey, look.
Guys with craft beers and fancy bourbons. I got. I don't know about that.
I mean, well, there's nothing wrong with fancy bourbons. I mean, let's call a spade, Mike. We'll have you back in a month. We're gonna come kidnap you. Rob, you got the white van, correct? Lined up for October.
The Bronco.
Yeah, you're gonna be thrown. Just make sure the wife doesn't call the cops or anything.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, a couple of quick words of advice at Keeneland. This is not earth-shattering, but early in this meet, every meet, there are trainers that get really hot, jockeys that get really hot, and the vice versa, that too, people that get really cold. And that playing the connection thing, it's kind of like when Saratoga first starts. Mm-hmm. There's always somebody in the ice bucket, and there's always somebody on fire. So it's a real thing, or it's something I pay a lot of attention to anyway. So just something that, for the players out there, if you're going to be playing Keeneland nearly every day, keep tabs on who's hot and who's not.
For the weekend
year at Saratoga, I'm sure you would remember. I mean, I think Rudy Rodriguez was like, for his first 48 horses, and he held on in like a 12-5 claimer, and they're interviewing him after the race, and he's like, "Thank God that's over." I mean, you're right. I mean, no doubt about it. You can get on them kind of runs.
Well, a good example at Keeneland was, I believe Rusty Arnold is Keeneland's all-time leading trainer. If he's not, he's in the top 2 or 3. And a few meets ago, he lost his first 48 races, I think, at the meet. So and then when he won, he never wins with a first-time starter. I think he won on the last or the next to last day of the meet at 50-1 with a first-time starter. So and I'm sure he felt just like Rudy did. But it's a real thing. People always look at me kind of funny when I say that, but because it seems like a little unscientific and not like Sharpie enough. But in practice, it works at these boutique meets, and then Saratoga's gotten to where it's a little longer and it's a little different field. But Keeneland is it's a short meet, and they run 33 days a year. So 17 in one meet and 16 in the other, I think. And the trainers that come in here loaded, seems like all their horses run well, and the guys that aren't loaded, they have trouble getting off the duck.
Hey, Mike, is it one of those things for like weekend warriors where you almost recommend maybe if you got the patience and the willpower, wait a couple days into it, see how things are playing out, and then jump in? Or is it kind of like
that's my standard advice? The only problem with that in this meet is you get a lot of the good racing front loaded into this opening weekend. So that I do think that's a good rule to live by. It's just a little hard to live by, when they stack a bunch of graded races in this opening weekend. So I would say to be, you're going to want to play these stakes. My policy Friday and Saturday will be the early races. I'm going to have to really, really love something before I would step in there. It's just going to be like dinking around with some action bets early in those cards, unless there's just something I love. Because if you're gonna play the last half of the card and you don't have a feel for the meet yet, the last thing you want to do is lose half your limit or 2/3 of your limit before the big races come up. So I call it,
that's you, Rob. He's talking to you, Rob.
Yeah. That's a great piece of advice.
Next time he does that, Stu, say, "Don't be speeding, Rob."
Look, well, we know he likes to speed, especially in company cars. But that's a story for a different time. How's that bonus working out for you?
Oh, how dare you!
All right. More on that after the break. Mike, thank you. We'll see you soon. Talking Derby. Check out Keeneland. Check out Betting with an Edge. Bother PTF, DM him, see if he's got a copy in his attic. And then we'll be back right after a short break with Nick Tammaro. All right, everybody, back on the Rob and Stu show. And we are joined right now by just a lovely individual. He is a guy who he's been down in the dumps ever since the Tigers took 2 out of 3 in Houston. You really hate to see it. I mean, it's just tough scenes for a once proud franchise, Rob. I mean, it's all downhill from here.
Listen, they destroyed my Phillies, so I can't say anything, and we stink.
You hate to see that happen as well. He is the lovely Nick Tammaro. Catch him on ITM in the Money Media. He's doling out picks. He's calling races. Sam Houston, Lone Star. You're still on Steve Bick. You're a vagabond. You are horse racing. Maybe we should make Horse Racing America do a special on just Nick.
Maybe I guess I'm like if you're willing to pay me, I'll do it. I guess.
Fair enough.
I'm like a whore for horse racing. No,
you're in the right crowd then.
I am, right. It's a game. It's like when Trotter's friend tells him in Let It Ride, he refers to the jockey club at Hialeah as that whorehouse that you're sitting in. So, I mean, I guess it fits a little bit, right? So
no, that's want me to make a scene in the jockey club.
Yeah, that's right. Can't you people just watch these races? Do you have to bet on them? Yeah. Anyway, I think I think this was all targeted by you too, because I came on with you 2 years ago when the Tigers were in Houston for an early April series and they swept the Astros.
Hate to see that happen.
That was
Tough
when
scene.
Hinch was that was when Hinch was new to the Tigers.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, we destroyed Verlander in the game, which, I mean, I'm not saying anything.
It had to happen. Yeah, well, it's going to be a long. I tried to tell a couple of Mets fans that I'm friends with that it was going to be a long go of it in 2023 for Verlander, so I'm not surprised. But I will say, I try. Go ahead.
Oh no! Did you see the Mets? They've got New York Hospitals as their new logo on the side of their uniform. It's really good.
They have a 25-man roster and a 27-man injured list.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
I mean, Rob, can you imagine being a Mets fan? I mean, you'd have to be a sick individual.
I'm in a slightly, I don't even know if I could say better. Both of our franchises have 2 World Series, the Mets and the Phillies, in a zillion years. So it's not, it's torture. It's pure torture being a Phillies fan. And the Mets not too much better. I mean, but listen, when you sign a guy like Nick said with Verlander, I mean, even last year in that World Series, he got hit hard in Game 1. He had the bounce back game, but you could tell to me he was right on the fringe. I think the Astros did the right thing. You just let him go, and I mean, they have a phenomenal. Do the Astros build these pitchers in a lab? I mean, even their bullpen last year, every guy in the series was.
Dude, I'm excited about Hunter Brown this year. Hunter Brown, shout out Wayne State, pride of Detroit. Okay,
Michigan guy. Yep.
Yeah, Hunter Brown. He looks. I mean, the stuff is there. I feel like by the towards the end of the season into the postseason, he might be a guy that's a real killer on that staff.
Well, and you watch him, they put him next to Verlander in terms of mechanics and things like that. He's obviously a kid that grew up watching Verlander, so it's amazing how much he looks like him in terms of the delivery and the windup and whatnot. And yeah, they've gotten off to a slightly slow start, but yeah, that the bullpen was incredible last year, and the international scouting was really what led them to a lot of those Latin guys that just seem like they all throw at 100. And it all, it dances all over the place. I try to stay away from anything on Twitter involving sports, specifically the Astros, because I realize that nobody follows me for my sports opinions, and I'm just going to be a jerk probably.
People can. Hey, you should let it rip. I mean, look at our boy Matt Bernier. He's letting rip, okay? I mean,
you're right.
I think he put his mortgage on Justin Thomas this weekend.
Is there anything MLB ever positive? Go ahead.
Yeah, MLB Now or MLB Metrics, one of them tweeted today and asking if Garrett Cole was underrated. And I was just going to reply and say, if Garrett Cole is underrated, then Framber Valdez is Sandy Koufax. I mean, I don't hate Garrett Cole. I mean, look, I hate the Yankees, but I don't hate Garrett Cole. I understand why he chased the money, but I mean, it's not my fault that he had a 13 ERA in the AL wildcard game in 21 and that the Astros abused him in Game 3 of the ALCS last year. It's okay.
Oh, that was a dog walking.
That was devastation. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I'll tell you, that was fun. Especially Game 3 when Bader dropped the fly ball in the outfield and Cole told him, "Don't worry, I got you." And Chas McCormick hit a 2-run home run in the next.
No, he picked him
and
up.
They were crying about the roof, right? Last year, weren't they crying about one of those games?
Yeah, they were crying about the roof in Game 2. They said that the wind held up. I think Judge hit a ball deep in the 8th or 9th inning, and they were complaining about that. And then they just got skull fucked in Game 3, basically, for lack of a better way to put it. And it's a family program. I should be careful.
No, you're good. You can let it rip on here. I mean, you should see the horrific things we say about
I like it.
Rutgers football. I mean, you want to talk about AIDS on the field.
There's no reason to do that now. There's no reason.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't know what got into me.
Yeah.
Big Ten
There's a
champion.
guy walking along in the parking lot at the grocery store here the other day with a Rutgers shirt on. You don't get a lot of those in
Wow.
Southeast Texas.
That
Yeah,
is-
I thought, man, is that the R that I think it is? Yeah, pretty
Nice.
strong.
Shout out to the guy.
I mean, I'm
repping
a Houstonian, but raised by two New Yorkers, so like I'm very familiar
Oh, there you
with
go.
with the everything Northeast. And in fact, when my to the Phillies Mets talk is funny because when my cousin got married, her first wedding, it was in Manalapan, New Jersey. They were from Princeton, and so half the bus was Phillies fans and half was Mets fans. It's like you guys,
That's
what you
where the
guys all
split
are
is.
assholes.
That's where the split is. I live at the Jersey Shore. Stu's been to my house a couple times. I tell him all the time when he comes. I live in Tom's River. It's like, Stu, this is where it splits. This is
Yeah,
where
exactly.
New York ends and Philadelphia sports begins. So you're
That's
on
right.
either side of the spectrum.
And you're going to be loyal no matter what.
We went to that
That's
deli.
right.
We went to that deli to pick up the food, and I mean, we almost got
I was
into a
harassed.
fist fight.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
harassed.
I mean,
Yeah. I had to listen to how bad Philadelphia fans are. We're miserable people.
yeah, coming
New
from
York
a
fans.
Giants fan, Nick.
Yeah.
A Giants fan extolling the virtues of East Rutherford. Okay,
He was upset.
my
He was
God.
upset.
Yeah, I don't need to hear that.
Yeah.
Ever.
And screw the horses for a second. Nick, what's your college then? Are you a Cougs guy?
And so I went to a small liberal arts school in Dallas that did not have sports, but then I went to grad school at U of H. So yeah, I'm Cougs over pretty much anything. But I mean, I grew up a Longhorns fan. I mean, my parents they had no loyalty to anything Texas related. And so I became more of a Longhorns fan because so many guys I went to high school with were going to A&M. And so I was just a contrarian by nature. That's how I guess I was always destined to be a gambler. And so I just kind of, and then the Longhorns got good. And when Vince Young, I actually live 5 minutes from the high school that Vince Young went to. And, which was a shocking kind of, so Vince Young went to a very inner city HISD school, which you're not going to find a lot of good athletics in those schools. So he was an easy guy to root for, being a Houston guy. And so I guess I became more loyal to the Horns at that point. But, Cougs now there's something to cheer about at least.
Dude, that basketball team
yeah.
is they just got that kid to come back, that freshman to come back for next season, and the football team is real solid.
Yeah, they've improved a ton. The school has gotten a lot of donations. Tillman Fertitta that owns the Rockets, that also owns Landry Select Group and Golden Nugget, all of those spots. He's given a lot of money, so it's helped a ton. And the school itself,
even to bring that coach from West Virginia over there. I mean, years ago, if you would have said the guy's going to leave West Virginia to come to Houston,
right. And I think he pretty much, I totally agree. I think he pretty much told him, like, look, I'm telling you, we're getting into the Big 12. So come here, you're not going to miss out. But yeah, I mean, it's a great point. And to think that U of H athletics at that point had nearly as much to offer as a place like West Virginia, it's pretty hard to imagine. So no, it's good time to be a Cougs fan, and they'll be Big 12 next year. So onward and upward.
I love it, man. We're gonna have to have you on to BS about a little Big 12 football in the off season.
Absolutely.
This could be your outlet to rant and rave. But let's get into the ponies. We covered the Keeneland with a young man making his start in horse racing, Mike Maloney. Check him out. We covered that at the first part, but bringing you on to a little reliever action, a little Gregory Soto action, if you will. What? I was just naming a random reliever.
I knew that was coming.
That's shocking. Former All-Star, Rob. Anyway, we got Wood Memorial. We got Santa Anita Derby. I'll let you lead off, Nick. The Big A. This is a circuit you have a storied history with. Wood Memorial feels like a 1.5 horse race to me, just because of the post positions. Is it different in your eyes? Do you think that somebody can make a jump up here, or is it really just it feels very chalky?
Yeah, I think the half a horse changes every time you look at the race, right? I mean, the one horse that is a contender is Hit Show, obviously. He was not done any favors at the post position draw. The one thing that I think can be said for him in this scenario, and it's not dissimilar from Forte a week ago having an outside post, is that, I mean, this field has a remarkably small amount of speed. And you know, when you're worried about wide trips, what you're worried about, the thing that you stay concerned about is that you have horses that just aren't going to be able to get over. And the way you get over is with horses that have speed separating the field a little bit. And there's just not very much speed in here. So I'm assuming that, you know, the plan with Hit Show will be to ride him a little bit out of the gate to get a forward position. You know, it's funny. I brought this horse up with people, and Pete Fornatel and I talked about him extensively in a podcast back in February. And I thought, you know, he was kind of an under the radar, maybe interesting horse. And little did we realize 2 months was going to go by and he was suddenly going to become a major contender, in large part because nobody else is stepping forward, right? I mean, he has at least run a fast race at 1 1/8, and so few have. So there's a lot on his shoulders in terms of proving that the Withers was not a fluke, but it was more of a jumping off point. And so he's clearly the horse to beat. I think his stablemate, Slip Mahoney, is probably him and Dreamlike are the two biggest concerns. I'm not bowled over by Dreamlike. I'm a little worried about whether that 91 figure is really gonna hold up. There have been no runbacks. I just wonder, these Gulfstream dirt figures are very, very hard to make. And as somebody who made buyer figures for years, I can tell you, when you're talking about, you know, 3 or 4 dirt races on a 11 or 12 race card, that's very, very hard to do. You could be in a situation where you're using 3 or 4 different variants for that program. But I'm a bit of a homer with Slip Mahoney. I've liked him from the start. I found his big, long, slow pedigree to be pretty fun. Being I Got Lucky, who was a horse who was better as the distances got long, or Arrogate as well. They didn't pay very much money for this horse, but he's obviously got some ability. He didn't get out of the gate in the Gotham, but put together a nice run. I understand it was into a very strong pace, but the fact that he ran the race that he did, I think actually helps him in here because he's going to be a little bit more forwardly placed. I was pretty shocked to see the Thorograph numbers on that Gotham came back very strong. So this is one of those situations where, you know, the buyer was, for this crop, it was average to above average, but the Thorograph numbers were really good. And Race King got a 2, which we've not seen a lot of. So we'll see how Slip Mahoney holds up. You know, from a wagering perspective, I hope that I can get alive to Slip Mahoney and Hit Show if I like anything well enough heading into it. And, you know, I could see myself probably playing some exactas with Slip Mahoney in the race itself.
Yeah, the race kind of came up funny as far as it almost seems to me like Pletcher's taking these 2 horses for Rapoli, for St. Elias, and just saying, okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's the home track. Let's just try him here. This is one big, you know, put him in the race just to put him in there. I mean, obviously the hype with Dreamlike, you know, the purchase tag, everything like that. But for Todd to put blinkers on like that and then throw him in a stakes race, I don't know. To me, it almost kind of feels like a forced spot. I don't know. I just, you know, he didn't race bad last time, you know, like stretching out to 1 16th. Now he's going to go to 1 1/8, a gun runner. You should be able to get the distance, but I don't know. It just feels to me like they're just taking a shot with the horse in this race, you know. And like you said, I mean, Hit Show is really come on. Gary and Mary West. I mean, this is, can they get their redemption? I mean, this is kind of like their Derby, you know. Can they get the redemption for getting taken down in there in the 1 in 19? I think this is their best shot. I think this Hit Show just lays over this field. I mean, Krupe had a lot of hype, I thought, as a you know, last year at Saratoga. All you heard was Krupe, and I don't know. To me, just really hasn't. Just sucks along. You know, gets pieces here and there. He just seems overmatched in this field. Maybe the Linda Rice runner can get away early. I don't know, and keep going as maybe a little bit of a long shot. But this is a pretty tough. This is just, to me, this is Hit Show all the way.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, when Dreamlike debuted, that was a day where there was stakes racing at Tampa. And I was looking at the Gulfstream races a couple of days before, and I thought to myself, Fletcher is debuting a gun runner. First of all, has a horse that's a gun runner out of a Tappet mare that Winchell sold, right? Which Winchell runs all of these gun runners that he has, basically. But here's one that he sold for a lot, undoubtedly. But he's debuting this horse while Irad's out of town. And basically everybody else is too. So Edgar Zayas is riding. I thought to myself, there's just no way this horse is good. And then he ran well. And then he came back. And I was actually at the NHC when he lost. And I think the horse he lost to was the biggest price of the entire contest. The horse went off 23-1. It was a Bill Mott first.
I think he was a Mott firster. Yeah, he was a Mott
yeah,
firster.
20, yeah, who went off a big price and and obviously ran extremely well on debut. So I've just never really, it's funny, I feel similarly to you. I just don't quite get this horse. And so I have a very hard time warming up to him. And I also think that, at 7-2 or 4-1, he's just a disastrously big underlay. So just a horse that I don't have much need for at that kind of price.
And he's going to get overbet in New York, especially with Todd, especially, Rapoli, the whole thing. You know what I mean? Right. He's going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if he's 5-2 when they go in the gate, as opposed to 3-5 on hit show. But I'm never one for taking favorites, but in this race here, I don't know. To me, it's just, like you said, it'll be interesting from that 13 post for hit show. But boy, you really got to like the way he's coming into these races. And Cox is just, that barn is just loaded this year. They have some runners, man.
It's he is in an enviable position between the Oaks and the Derby. He is loaded up, no doubt about it. And I think that's really what we're going to end up seeing with Brad Cox now, year in and year out, because it was funny. He had kind of a quiet 22 in many ways. He really didn't have a marquee horse anywhere. And I was talking to a friend late in the year, and I said, well, the Brad Cox Revenge Tour it'll start soon. And once early part of this year, I was like, man, he's got 5-6 Derby horses potentially. It looks like right now, he could have two of the three or the three favorites in the Oaks, depending on what happens tomorrow and Saturday. So it's really incredible.
Yeah, he's just, yeah. There's not much else you could say. He's one, he's the top 2 or 3 guy in the country right now.
Yep.
Hey, Nick, if we're liking hit show, right? And we're looking underneath, what are some of the horses that catch your eye? To me, Classic Catch seems like one that could certainly make a number here. And I think you'll get every bet at 10-1. This is one that's won twice at this route of ground. So, if you just project and this is much more of a stalker type horse, which really might set up in this scenario. It was hard for me to get behind any closers, so I kind of like this one underneath.
Yeah, before I even heard you finish the question, the horse that I was going to bring up was Classic Catch, who is a 2-time mile and 1/8 winner, including once locally. Looks like a horse that's really bottomless distance wise, and I thought he ran a nice race last time out, an improved run overall. He was obviously disappointing at Tampa, but he was a little bit inside. And sometimes what happens at Tampa stays at Tampa, and you just gotta treat it that way. It's a quirky dirt surface that doesn't always play consistently. So I totally agree on Classic Catch. Feels like a horse again that'll just keep running the entire time. You'll get a good price there as well. And Rob mentioned Arctic Arrogance as a horse that probably is going to show speed. I hate all these blinkers on, blinkers off changes, and I'm afraid it's going to end up affecting what they should do, which is they should just go to the lead. There should be no mystery here. This is a horse that should be on the lead. He's been at his best when he's shown speed. He actually set a pretty fast pace if you're a Timeform US user in the Withers. I'm a Timeform US devotee, and I thought this horse ran well, all things considered. It does look like we've probably seen his best, and his best is not good enough. But my old buddy General Banker is a horse that has there's no issue with playing him a little bit underneath. He did quite a bit of running late in the Gotham, a little bit more garbage time than Slip Mahoney. They each did a lot of garbage time work. Don't get me wrong. He's another horse who I think you could slide in there. Kind of an easy horse to root for, New York bred by Central Banker that seems to be sort of impervious to distance issues or surfaces or anything like that. He just fires every time.
Hey, listen, great horse to own though. The horse picks up thirds. New York bred, you drop in there, you can get a win. You couldn't ask for a better horse, as far as owning him. He's consistent as they come.
And won a $500,000 Stallion Series race, right? This is a horse that's put a lot of bread on the table.
It is amazing the way that New York Stakes program years ago, to me was always, second class. And boy, today though, they've really, even at the sales, I mean, they go for big money at that Saratoga sale in August, and they fly off the board.
Money's there, no doubt about it. Money is there.
All right.
I'll tell you one thing before we move on to San Diego Derby. That quarter came up. That quarter came up incredible. I mean, there's some that is a really interesting race. I mean, that's sometimes the quarter I feel like doesn't get. I mean, it's only a 7-horse field, but that is a salty group in that race.
Yeah, it is, and it's a race worthy of discussing. I was gonna mention it.
Yeah, go for it, Nick.
Yeah, we might as well stick with Aqueduct. And I'll tell you, one of the cool things is that, today's flavor is a New York bred who came over to George Weaver's barn and has gotten extremely good. I don't know if he's good enough when push comes to shove, because we're dealing with a couple of horses in here that have individual performances that are just too good for everybody else. It's a question of whether they're going to duplicate them. But today's flavor's 4 for 4 since joining George Weaver's barn, and he's barely been headed, right? He's going to the lead here. There's no mystery there. You have Expressman, who got 107 Beyer in his debut and is still kind of trying to work back to that. You have Repo Rocks, who, is just everybody's darling. Jamie Ness, who's taken a huge step forward for his current trainer, including a 111 fig 2 starts back. Little Vic, I thought, was terrific in the Tom Fool last time. Beat Nakatomi, who's probably going to be 8-5 or 9-5 in the Commonwealth. White Abario, who is a Grade 1 winner, coming in off arguably a career best effort over 2 horses who won their next starts, including Wayburn, who won the Sir Shackleton. So yeah, it's the one word of caution I'll give everybody on White Abario: Saffie Joseph Jr. switching off of Lasix is on a 34 race losing streak.
That's tough.
In graded stakes races, yeah, he's had some non-gradeds run okay, but in graded stakes races, switching off of Lasix, he's 0 for his last 34. And the thing is, with this horse in particular, look at what happened the last time he switched off Lasix. Right, I was at the Haskell that day. There was chatter about how he wasn't training as well as he was earlier in the year, but I mean, he didn't get bet and he didn't run a step in the Haskell. So that's my worry with White Abario, who otherwise I do think is in the right spot, from a distance and class perspective. So yeah, this is a really, really fun race. I can't wait to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, Zaffy's record too in New York isn't
not great.
Not great.
Yeah,
not great. Yeah, now
and
he's got like a Kyle Schwarber average when he brings horses to New York. It's either hit or miss.
Yeah, and one of those things, that's been a way to judge trainers for years, because look, it's tougher to win in New York generally than it is anywhere else, and he is a guy who's gotten more involved the last couple of years, having a slightly more regular string. But yeah, it's a lot of cheapies that he's won with. Dr. Blute being the best one of them was a New York bred stake winner. Dr. Blute is actually one of his only switch off Lasix winners in the last 5 years, and he did it in the Empire Classic last year at Aqueduct.
You come to the Robin Stew show when Nick Tammaro's on for all the inside stats. That's what you're given. Thank you, Nick, for that insight. Let's head out to the West Coast. Kale juices flowing. Rob, they've got like the saltwater baths going. Our buddy Tyler Hoffman's probably going to be at a spa day, probably.
Yeah. Vegan hamburgers, the whole nine.
Yeah.
Broccoli.
You gotta love it out there. Broccoli, vegan burgers. But San Anita Derby going off 5:43 Eastern, the right coast time. Nick, I looked at this race, and you could go a few different ways. It strikes me that Practical Move, Practical Move jumps off the paper, and especially after that San Felipe, when you watch the replay. To me, it was just there's a lot of good horses in this race. To me, it was just like my eyes just kept going back to Practical Move.
Yeah, look, in terms of what's there form wise, the fact that he not only he didn't just validate his Los Al Derby win, he showed that he's an improved 3-year-old, which that's one of the That's one of the charges against a horse like Forte at this point, right? Is that we don't know if he's gotten better as a 3-year-old. What we did know is that Forte was an exceptional 2-year-old, and he is now at least as good or almost as good at 3, whereas Practical Move has taken a step forward to now become an exceptional horse, at least in the context of this crop. Look, it's my obligation to find a way to poke holes in basically every horse. That's what any astute handicapper wants to do. So the knocks on him to me are that, and it's sort of funny because I follow Southern California racing somewhat well enough. The inside at Los Alamitos and Santa Anita generally is not great. And I mean right next to the rail. You can be a path and a half, 2 paths off the rail and be in decent shape, but you generally don't want to be much towards the inside. This horse has actually made inside moves on 2 tracks where the rail was good in his last 2 starts. And you go back through the dirt races on that Santa Anita handicap day card, and I mean Stiletto Boy and Defunded are on the rail the first 6 furlongs of the big cap. Joe Don Looney wired one of the late races. Mendez Mild wired a late race inside the whole way at 40+1. You just had one strong inside performance after another, some of which were formful. So that's the knock, is that maybe he's been helped by having these sort of cupcake trips, against questionable competition. And maybe he's now going to catch Go Rocket Ride's best shot. Maybe he's going to catch an even better shot from Skinner, who, if you do believe the inside was good last time, you're obviously upgrading his chances, given how wide he was the entire way. And then the variable, of course, is Mandarin Hero. We don't know exactly what to make of this horse. It's hard to believe he's a blue chip Japanese prospect, but he's a horse that's shown some ability. He seems like he is very happy to just run all day. He was running at him late last time in that Kumatori show. And I mean, you don't need to go on a big rant about what the Japanese have done worldwide in major races recently. So I'm imagining this horse is not coming over for a trip to Din Tai Fung across the street from Santa Anita. He's coming here with his mind on business.
Wow, I like the reference drop there, Nick.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I've only been to Santa Anita once, but I never went there. Is that place good?
It's a dumpling place that started in Hong Kong, and there was one local in Arcadia, and they moved into the Westfield Mall, which is the mall behind Santa Anita. And there's also one in Aria now. It's the new 24-hour spot in Aria, and terrific place. Best dumplings you're going to find anywhere.
Oh, I'll have to try that.
Oh, yeah.
Usually I shuffle to the Aria, and I'm about 3 sheets to the wind after sitting in the sports book and losing all my money, and then, getting one of those slices of pizza out on the strip and doing godforsaken things in a bathroom for just some extra money to get back to New Jersey. But
I mean, you're an expert on the Jersey Turnpike at the.
Well, that's
the rest
all right.
stops.
That's that's for a late night show. Let's not give away trade secrets.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry.
Yeah. National Treasure is a horse I kind of like because here's the thing. I know Yachteen's name is down, right? We all know this charade or how this goes on or anything like that. But I really liked his race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He broke from the outside at Keeneland. I thought he made a middle move into that race. Obviously Forte went, right by him at the top of the stretch, but I thought he ran big that day. I thought he came back in the sham. I'm not sure if they had him cranked up to 100%. I thought he was decent in that race, made a nice little run late. I think they're going to have this horse ready to run for the Santa Anita Derby. I really do. I think this is one of their best chances to win. It's killing him that he can't race in the Derby. It's I don't know. To me, I think they're going to have this horse ready and cranked up. I like Johnny V's on there. I like him in this spot. Skinner's also another horse. I mean, obviously, I'm not giving you nothing new. 4-1 for Sheriffs, like you said, Nick. I mean, he's coming into the race well. And Sheriffs is one of those old school trainers. He's going to let the horse get better as the horse gets older. He's not going to rush him. I thought for him to win off the layoff like that speaks volumes because Sheriff isn't a guy that's really going to have them cranked up, especially off a layoff, even though it was only a maiden win. But, he's another horse. But for me, I think National Treasures, I'm going to make a decent-sized win bet on National Treasure. I think he's the best in this race.
Yeah, I think there's plenty to like, obviously. My concern was that they did miss the San Felipe with him. He got scratched out of there. And so he's been off for a little bit longer than anticipated. I'm a little concerned about his ability to rate effectively, but I mean, he really rates to get a great trip. He should be just off of Go Rocket Ride, and that would potentially put him in a spot where maybe Practical Move is having to run him down, which doesn't seem like a bad thing if you're backing National Treasure. That's there'd be no excuse from there, I would imagine.
It's kind of odd to see the Santa Anita Derby with 9 horses. I think they had 9 horses in this race in the combined in the last 5 years. Usually I always feel like it's like a 4 or 5 horse field.
Yeah, one good thing about the parity in the 3-year-old division is that it's led to a lot of big fields, right? I mean, this is going to be this is the fifth prep in the last 3 weeks that's going to have at least 10. So that's always good to see.
Nick, is there any other races we haven't talked about? Is there anything that piqued your interest or something that just comes to mind?
I actually think it's not a particularly big field, and I don't have a great idea wagering wise, but I'm very intrigued by the Gazelle on Saturday at Aqueduct, the third race, the Oaks Prep, where Chad Brown's pair of horses that are both stakes winners at the meet are going to face off. That's Occult and Sheet of Beauty. It's actually a fun matchup because I really don't know how much one is better than the other. If I even know who is better. I think Occult is better. So I'm intrigued by that at 1 1/8. I think it'll be an interesting race and a good matchup between those two. So I'm looking forward to that a little bit. Frosty O'Toole is first time off a private purchase by Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, now in the care of Todd Pletcher. So it'll be interesting to see where she stacks up as well. So that's kind of a race that I'm looking forward to watching. The betting opportunities at Keeneland, you're not going to get any better info from me than you got from Mike Maloney. So obviously a lot of opportunities there, some bad morning lines for you to poke fun at. And that's always a good exercise.
Yeah, we went over the Bluegrass with Mike. I tell you, watching the replays today and going through it, because we were talking to him obviously yesterday, and then we're going to put this show out tomorrow. But I tell you, watching the replay of that Gotham, and a horse I'm going to use underneath in the Bluegrass is Clear the Air. I thought he got squeezed off pretty good in the middle of the lane. I thought he came back on. Listen, I'm not saying he's going to win, obviously, but for underneath, for triples and exactas in the Bluegrass, even a couple supers, I'm going to use him in there as a long shot price.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And, Maggie Wolfendale actually had a lot of really good things to say about that horse in the paddock for the Gotham. And, I actually used him a little bit in the Gotham as well. I kind of played him and General Banker underneath. And so I hit the bad value trifecta of 2023 with the computers crushing that combo. But I'm not surprised.
Isn't it great? Shout out to our computer wagering teams. Just, salt of the earth.
The best. Yeah. It's like shopping in a grocery store where the high volume buyers get to go in and pick out all the food they want, and they take the rest of the food and just throw it on the floor, and everybody else then goes in.
They left those armor sausages on the 89-cent armor sausages for you. So who really won, Nick?
Yeah,
who
exactly.
really won?
Who could ask for more than that? But no, I think he's an interesting underneath horse too. I'm hoping he's also not quite as far back with a better start to things than he was that day, because there's really not a lot of speed in that race either. I think Verifying is going to be extremely tough to beat just from a tactical standpoint. And but I'm intrigued to see how good Tappet Trice may be. Talking about post position draws with regards to Hit Show, I think Tappet Trice was hurt by the rail draw. So I don't think that's a great situation for him. He's a horse that has had some issues getting out of the gate. These Pletcher horses generally like to get outside. They like to have a free-flowing type of opportunity. And, my man Luis Saez he's all arms. So you're going to see him flapping away on Tappet Trice probably pretty early in this race. And, it'll be a question of how quickly he kicks in.
It's odd the way Pletcher this year, both of his horse, Tappet Trice and Forte, they kind of have the same kind of running style a little bit. Forte maybe a little bit more speed, but even last week in the Florida Derby, the way he closed, I wasn't blown. A lot of people said to me stuff on Twitter because I wasn't blown away by that field. Not to say the horse didn't race great, but to me it just wasn't. I don't know. I wasn't impressed with that field.
Yeah, field was ho-hum, and look, to me, Mage ran great, breaking slowly, making that first move, in just his third career start when he was supposed to be placed forwardly. So, picking up the baton from him at the quarter pole and running him down, I wasn't bowled over by it at all. And I mean, I'm too much of a speed figure guy to go nuts about a 95 buyer, even in a slow crop.
Hey, Nick, what do you got going on this week? Because I know you're a busy man. You're a man about town, if you will. What do you got going this week? Where can people find your thoughts?
Yeah, in themoneypodcast.com for Aqueduct. There'll be plenty of info there each and every racing day. So obviously Friday and Saturday. If you're watching this Friday, then you can click over, and Saturday as well. I will be doing the Players podcast with Pete Fornatal. Tomorrow we're going to cover Keeneland, the late pick 5, plus the stakes from the 3-year-old stakes from New York and California, the Wood and the Santa Anita Derby. You can get me at twinspires.com. Every Gulfstream and Santa Anita card, that'll be, I think those are the tracks I'm going to do for the summer. That'll of course switch to Del Mar in the thick of the summer. And yeah, and if you really have not had enough of me at that point, and you have a way to, it's not as easy as it used to be, you can watch Sam Houston's last 2 thoroughbred cards Friday and Saturday.
I love it, man. I love it. You're just out there getting it, hustling. Hopefully you can hustle back. We can get you Derby week when you have 38 different interview requests. PTF's already got you on the hook for 17 shows. So get excited.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I made a list of things I had to do Derby week last year. It was like an 8.5 by 11 page long, and I have. It's just, it's fun. It's racing. It's never feels like work.
Yeah, it doesn't suck, but at the same time, yeah, all of it's PTF. Give them my best. I got to get it back to them
anytime.
Well, that'll wrap it up for us. Thank you to Mike. Thank you to you, Nick. And Tam 1215. Stuck in my head forever. Check out Nick Tammaro on the Twitter machine. Me and Roberto will be back next week. We'll be yelling about the Eagles draft, talking about how the Lions are going to fuck this draft up. I'm excited. Tight end first pick. That's what I'm thinking.
Michael Mayer, get me the jersey.
Yeah, thanks, man. You do. I know where you live. That'll wrap it up for us. So for Nick, for Roberto, take care, brush your hair, and we'll see you after a while.